All right, hey everyone, and welcome. So, if you're here, you've probably gotten your hands dirty with Hugging Face, maybe fine-tuned a model or two, but what happens when you step away from the clean, simple tutorials and start tackling your own, real-world projects? Well, that's when things can get a little tricky. Today, we're going to level up. We're diving deep into the Datasets library to give you some serious data wrangling superpowers.
You know the standard workflow, right? You load a dataset straight from the hub, you do your preprocessing magic with that super handy .map function, and then you're off to the races, computing metrics. And look, it's a great, clean process that works beautifully for a ton of different cases.
Because let's be real, the real world is messy. Your data isn't always sitting there perfectly packaged on the hub. Sometimes it's gigantic, sometimes it's in a weird format, or maybe it's just sitting in a folder on your own computer. And that's exactly where that standard workflow can start to feel, well, a little bit tight. So, first things first, let's tackle that big hurdle. We're going to break free from the hub and figure out how to work with data that lives where you do, right on your own machine.
Yeah, this is probably the #1 thing people run into. You've got your own awesome data set. Maybe it's a collection of text files, a custom CSV, maybe some funky JSON data. How in the world do you get that into one of those powerful dataset objects so you can actually start working?
Well, the solution is, thankfully, built right into the library. See, Hugging Face Datasets isn't just for downloading data from the cloud. It's a really powerful framework for loading and processing data from pretty much anywhere, and that absolutely includes your own computer. It was literally designed for this exact problem.
And hey, it's a two-way street. Once you get the hang of working with your own local data, you can package it up and actually contribute back to the community by pushing it right to the hub for other people to use. Pretty cool.
Okay, so you've got your data loaded. It doesn't matter if it's from the hub or your own hard drive, it's in. Now it's time to become a data ninja. We need to learn how to inspect, select, and manipulate your data with some real precision.
So how do you do the basics, How do you grab just the training set? Or select a specific range of examples to look at? Or even just peek at a single column to see what's in there? These are the fundamental things you have to do to really understand the data you're about to feed your model.
What's awesome here is just how intuitive this all is. The dataset object, it acts a lot like a normal Python dictionary. You can select splits just by writing dataset train. You can grab a column with dataset train text. And you can even slice out rows just like you would with a list, like dataset train 0/10. It's just incredibly straightforward.
But what if you need to do something really complex, like a multi-level group by or some other advanced transformation? No problem. The library plays so nicely with the tools you already know and love. You can, with one line of code, convert your dataset into a Pandas data frame, work all your magic, and then convert it right back. Easy. All right, we've handled local data, we've covered how to slice and dice it. Now it's time for the final boss, the memory monster. What on earth do you do when your dataset is so massive it threatens to just crash your entire machine? Come on, we've all been there. You try to load some multi-gigabyte data set, you hear your laptop fans just spin up like a jet engine, and then everything grinds to a halt. It can feel like you need a supercomputer to do modern machine learning. But it turns out the Datasets library has a much, much better way.
The secret lies in two incredibly powerful technologies that are working quietly behind the scenes. One is called Apache Arrow, and the other is a technique called memory mapping. These are your secret weapons for taming that memory monster. So, first up, what even is Apache Arrow? Well, you can think of it like a super specialized, highly efficient way of laying out data in memory. Instead of storing your data row by row, like a traditional spreadsheet, it stores it column by column. Now, that might sound like a tiny change, but trust me, the impact is absolutely massive. And here's why that columnar format is such a game changer. In machine learning, you're almost always working on entire columns at once, right? Like, get me all of the text inputs. With old-school row-based storage, the computer would have to read through every single piece of data in every row just to pick out the one column you wanted. With Arrow, it just goes and grabs that one column directly. We're talking orders of magnitude faster. It's blazing fast. So that's one half of the magic. The other half is this thing called memory mapping. Basically, the library creates this virtual pointer to your dataset file that's sitting on your hard drive. As far as your code is concerned, it thinks the entire file is already loaded into RAM. But what's really happening is the operating system is only pulling in the tiny little chunks you need from the disk exactly when you ask for them. And when you put those two together, it's just a total game changer.
Because of Apache Arrow and memory mapping, the Hugging Face Datasets library doesn't actually load your whole dataset into RAM. It cleverly leaves it on the disk and just accesses the little pieces it needs. And what this means for you is that you can work with a 100-gigabyte dataset on a laptop that only has, say, 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's absolutely incredible.
So, now that you have all these new techniques under your belt, what does the road ahead actually look like? Well, you've pretty much just leveled up your entire data handling game.
So let's just recap your new superpowers. You are no longer tied to just what's on the hub. You can bring your own data to the party. You can slice and dice that data with total precision. And, maybe most importantly, you are no longer a prisoner to the amount of RAM in your machine. You can now tackle datasets of pretty much any size.
And getting this data foundation right is just so critical. It sets you up for all the really advanced stuff, like creating custom tokenization strategies or building sophisticated fine-tuning pipelines. You've basically just built the bedrock for the next stage of your machine learning journey.
So that really just leaves us with one last and I think very exciting question. Now that these barriers have been removed, now that you have the ability to load, manipulate, and process virtually any data set you can get your hands on, what amazing project are you going to build first? Thanks for tuning in.